Have you ever looked around and wondered why some people just effortlessly compound their wealth while others spend a lifetime running on a financial hamster wheel? It's a deeply frustrating thing to witness, right? I mean, you can have two people with the exact same education, working in the exact same industry, yet one ends up completely financially independent, while the other is perpetually just one emergency away from total disaster. Well, today we're going deep into the mechanics of this disparity. In this explainer, we're going to unpack the psychological traps keeping millions in a vicious cycle of financial stress, and more importantly, we'll break down the precise systemic steps you need to actually escape it. We are skipping the generic advice today and looking directly at the root causes of wealth building.
So, let's start here. Why do some stay broke? Is financial success purely a genetic lottery? Are the wealthy just, inherently smarter, or did they catch some miraculous lucky break that the rest of us somehow missed? When we're struggling, it is incredibly easy to adopt a victim mentality. It's easy to assume that wealth is simply reserved for a chosen few who were handed special advantages right from day one. We want to believe it's all about a massive starting salary or a trust fund, mainly because, well, that kind of absolves us of responsibility, doesn't it? But the underlying data reveals a completely different reality about how actual, self-made wealth is generated over a lifetime.
The data tells a completely different story. It's really not about having a genius-level IQ, it's not about earning a massive six-figure salary right out of college, and it is certainly not about sheer luck. The actual differentiator between those who build wealth and those who stagnate comes down entirely to micro-habits and psychological framing. Most people do not stay broke because of an income problem. They stay broke because they never develop the fundamental daily behaviors required to retain and multiply their capital. It's these seemingly invisible daily routines and thought patterns that will either quietly build you an empire or keep you financially suffocating forever.
Let's move into Section 1, the illusion of wealth and living without a plan.
Imagine trying to drive all the way across the country without a GPS or a map. You would inevitably end up lost, wasting gas, and just driving in circles, right? Yet that is exactly how millions of highly intelligent people manage their cash flow. They work incredibly hard, they deposit their paycheck, they spend indiscriminately throughout the month, and then they look at their account and wonder where it all went. It's a completely reactive state of living. The wealthy, on the other hand, take a fundamentally different, highly proactive approach. They take the driver's seat and dictate exactly where their capital goes before the month even begins. They basically operate their personal household exactly like a highly efficient business.
Now, I know the word budget often feels like a financial straitjacket, like it's just a punitive set of rules designed to stop us from actually enjoying our lives. But that is a completely flawed paradigm. A budget is actually a framework for capital allocation. It's really just the act of giving every single dollar a specific job description. It isn't about restriction, it's about intentional direction. When you assign your capital to housing, to investing, and yes, to guilt-free entertainment, you eliminate the anxiety of the unknown. Without this framework, I promise you, even a shockingly high income will just evaporate through sheer friction and a lack of oversight.
All right, Section 2, the behavioral traps. Let's talk about escaping lifestyle inflation.
The classic hedonic treadmill. We've all seen this, right? It usually starts with a well-deserved raise. You are finally making more money. But almost instantly, the baseline of what you consider normal completely shifts. The apartment gets upgraded to a place with better amenities. The reliable sedan is traded in for a luxury lease. The casual dinners suddenly turn into high-end restaurant reservations. And before you know it, your expenses have risen perfectly in tandem with your new income. You're trapped in a cycle of lifestyle inflation. You are generating way more revenue than ever before, but your profit margin is still exactly zero. You are completely dependent on the very next paycheck just to sustain this ever-expanding lifestyle.
The goal is not to look rich. The goal is to become rich. This simple mandate absolutely changes everything. When a wealthy individual experiences an increase in income, they do not immediately rush out to purchase depreciating liabilities just to signal their success to strangers. No way. They quietly invest the difference. They widen the gap between what they earn and what they spend, and they use that surplus to accumulate real cash-flowing assets. They practice stealth wealth. Because having a garage full of financed luxury cars doesn't mean you are wealthy. It often just means you're highly leveraged and deeply in debt.
Moving right along to Section 3, the behavioral traps, specifically stopping emotional spending.
So many financial problems are actually emotional problems wearing a very clever disguise. We use consumerism as a mechanism for dopamine regulation. We stress shop online after a brutal meeting with our boss. We make ridiculous impulsive purchases at 2 a.m. on Amazon simply because we're bored. Or, perhaps most dangerously, we finance extravagant lifestyles just to impress people we don't even genuinely like. That hit of dopamine, That rush from the checkout screen? It's incredibly fleeting. But the compound interest on your credit card balance? Yeah, that is shockingly permanent. We are literally trading long-term peace for a short-term neurochemical hit.
It boils down to this. Every single dollar burned on an emotional purchase is a dollar permanently stolen from your future compounding engine. This is the concept of opportunity cost. When you spend $100 on something you don't really need today, you aren't just losing $100. If you had invested that capital instead, decades of market returns would have turned it into thousands. Learning to master your emotional state, identifying your triggers, and actually sitting with discomfort instead of medicating it with retail therapy, well, that is arguably the most lucrative financial skill you can possibly cultivate.
Okay, Section 4, the knowledge gap and the true power of early investing. Compound interest isn't just a basic math equation you learned in high school. It is the absolute engine of wealth creation. A really toxic misconception out there is that investing is some elite game reserved only for those who already have massive piles of cash. And this belief keeps entire generations completely paralyzed. Here's the reality of compounding. Your capital generates a return, and then those returns immediately begin generating their own returns. It's like a financial snowball rolling down an endless hill, gathering mass and momentum. You do not need large sums of money to start. You just need consistency, discipline, and above all else, an understanding that time is what does the heavy lifting.
The greatest obstacle to wealth isn't a sudden market crash, and it isn't picking the wrong stock. It's waiting for the perfect moment to begin. Human nature constantly whispers excuses to us. Wait until you get the next promotion. Wait until the economy stabilizes. Wait until you feel like you know enough. But waiting literally destroys compounding. As the old adage goes, the best time to start investing was years ago. The second best time? That's today. Putting your capital into the market immediately, regardless of the amount, is the singular most crucial action you can take to secure your independence.
Section 5, the knowledge gap. Let's look at mastering financial education.
It's crazy when you think about it. Traditional education teaches us almost everything except how to actually manage and grow capital. We graduate highly proficient in calculus, biology, and history, yet we remain functionally illiterate when it comes to taxes, asset allocation, and market dynamics. We are sent out into the world completely unprepared for the financial realities of adulthood. However, the excuse of ignorance, it's just no longer valid. The barrier to entry for top-tier financial education has completely collapsed. Between profound books, deep dive podcasts, and comprehensive digital courses, building a robust financial intellect is entirely in your own hands. Ignorance today is a choice.
And finally, Section 6, the wealth mindset, which is your actual blueprint to freedom.
Ultimately, the difference between the wealthy and everyone else isn't structural, it is purely psychological. It's a complete paradigm shift in how you view resources. A scarcity mindset looks at a transaction and obsessively asks, how much does this cost? It's a mindset completely anchored in immediate, short-term pleasure and consumption. Conversely, a wealth mindset asks a highly strategic question. What is the return on this investment and how does this create long-term value? It is the transition from being a passive consumer to an active creator of wealth. It's all about delaying gratification today so you can literally buy your own time and freedom tomorrow.
Honestly, building lasting wealth is almost incredibly boring. It really is. It is not an overnight miracle or a lucky lottery strike. It is the compounding of effort. It's the result of making rational, calculated decisions consistently over decades. When you track your capital allocation today, when you automate a small investment from every single paycheck, when you read just one chapter of a financial book before bed, you are literally rewiring your brain. These small, seemingly insignificant actions, repeated daily, aggregate into truly extraordinary, life-altering results. It's about becoming the type of person who naturally builds wealth.
So here is your blueprint to break the cycle, the escape plan. First, allocate your capital intentionally so you never have to wonder where it went. Second, cap your lifestyle inflation firmly to widen the gap between your income and your expenses. Third, harness the absolute power of compound interest relentlessly by automating your investments. Fourth, treat your financial education as a lifelong, uncompromising pursuit. And above all, ruthlessly prioritize your long-term independence over short-term dopamine hits. Financial freedom isn't some secretive club, it's a mathematical formula, and it absolutely works for anyone disciplined enough to execute it.
Most people remain trapped because they simply refuse to change their daily defaults. They hope for a better future, for sure, but they take the exact same actions that led to their current frustration.
But listen, your financial future is not a product of tomorrow. It is constructed entirely by the actions you take today. The blueprint is right in front of you. The only remaining variable is your execution. So, armed with this understanding, what will you do next? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.